And good afternoon and welcome to the BizBuzz program. Be grateful for what you got by Les Payne, our very own local rocker, Les Payne. I'm delighted to be with you again this afternoon. This is Dermot Fitzpatrick on the BizBuzz program with you for the next 90 minutes. The exciting thing is the guests that we have on our programs here at Marlow FM. I don't know if anybody has had Doctor Who on. And there was a possibility that Dr. Spock from Star Trek was on. But this afternoon, we've got the Enterprise Doctor, the one and only Mark Harris. Good afternoon, Mark.
Good afternoon. I wonder what you're going on about there, and then I twigged. Okay. Enterprise Doctor is the business that I run, and I love doing it.
So tell me just something. What is the Enterprise Doctor, and where did you come across the name? Because I think it's a great name.
Thank you.
I have this image of you in a white coat with a stethoscope, one of those USB connectors on the bottom of it. You go into a company and you plug in and do a diagnosis.
It's metaphorically speaking, that's what it is. The name came because I like a business name to describe what it does. There's plenty of business names like Marks and Spencer's and Tesco's who are very successful, doesn't say anything about what they do, but being a small business without the marketing budget, I felt I needed to do it. And what do I do? I help businesses to be better, not necessarily to get better, as in unwell. You don't have to be unwell to come to me. I help successful businesses become even more successful. So the word doctor sort of came up with that. And I don't just help businesses, I help charities, I help education, and all of those are, in a way, enterprises. So the name was born, and I have to say I loved it to bits, and quite a few people have commented positively. Shall I tell you the one negative thing about it?
If you want to.
When people Google for Enterprise Doctor, they get a certain Mr. McCoy comes up, who was the doctor on the Starship Enterprise. And it shoves me right down the rankings, and I didn't consider that before I got started. But people seem to find me, so that's good.
Enterprise Doctor, of course, from Starship Enterprise.
Yeah.
And of course, an enterprise is made up of people too. So it's not only the business that gets. I'm sure that gets your attention. It's also when you walk into an office and you see the office. It could be tidy or untidy, stacks of paper or not. But you see the person. You see the person behind the desk.
Yeah.
And that can tell you an awful lot about what's happening in the business too.
Absolutely. And just the state of the office. Is it pin neat, which is a bit OCD? Is it a complete trash heap, which tells you a whole different story? You can read a lot in what are the books that are on the bookshelf. Is there a bookshelf? There's an awful lot of stuff you can pick up on when you walk into a room.
Yeah. Well, so before I get into the actual business side of it, I always like to find out a little bit more about the people who come and be guests on the program, just to get us an idea of how you got to here. So where do you come from? Where were you born?
Okay, and in that respect, I'll give you the short version because the long version is quite long. I was born in Totton, just outside Southampton. I moved at the age of 4 to Hounslow, right by Heathrow. Well, I didn't move, my parents did, and luckily they took me with. At the age of 11, we moved to Queensbury in Middlesex, which is sort of Wembley-ish, for those who don't know that part of the world, because they wanted me to have the opportunity to go to a grammar school, and that was part of the grammar school education in that area. And then my dad's job took us up to Leicester, and then my dad's job took us back down to Wembley, and I lived in a couple of different places in Wembley until I got married in 85 and moved out to Marlow, and lived in Marlow, then moved to a slightly bigger house in Marlow, and now happily in Marlow Bottom.
Great, a great summary. And your dad, what did your dad work at?
My dad was an accountant. And funnily enough, it's just the way the world turns. It was an accountant in this part of the world. His main employment, certainly through my teenage years and most of the latter years of his employment, was with GEC Radio and Television. And of course, they've gone the way of all great companies. But they were based at Langley Park, which is not a million miles from here, in an old stately home with acres and acres of grounds.
Yes.
And then here I am living and working 10 miles from there. So.
And what was your mum doing?
My mum went through various things, but she finished her career as a lecturer at various colleges in northwest London, and she taught initially she taught typing in the days when people taught typing, and credit to her, she moved with the times and moved into word processing in the days when you used to spend $6,000 on a word processor instead of downloading a word processing software for nothing. And taught mainly young ladies, but not exclusively, to type and how to tab and lay out a letter and all of those secretarial type things.
So what would have been the influences that they had on you, or that had on you, that all that moving, the school, that you use today in your current job?
It's a really good question, because I hadn't really thought about it before, and the conclusion that I've come to, the influence what they were always trying to do was improve the situation we were in. Not that we were in a disastrous situation, they were homeowners and with a mortgage and all that good stuff, but they were always striving to get a little bit better for themselves and for us, to get a bit more money for a bit nicer holiday, a bit bigger house, just that continual slight improvements, not at the cost of everything else, balancing it with social needs and family needs and all those other things. And that's really the way that I've lived my life as well, is by doing that. And then from there, it goes back to Enterprise Doctor, and I often talk about things like the Kaizen principle, which is about small improvements which all together add up to a bigger improvement in the business, and that's comes right back to them. It's just about continually
That's the link I was looking for. That's something that those seeds that were planted that we didn't know, and probably discounted at the time, and in some cases objected to. In actual fact, they come around as it's called Kaizen. When somebody puts a name to it, it's called Kaizen.
Yeah, and the other thing really that I got from the two of them in equal measure was you have to behave properly. And when you're a little boy and you want to do little boy stuff, it's not so great having to be a good boy all the time. But hey, I did my fair share of naughty. In fact, some, including them, would probably say more than my fair share of naughty. But the principles of there's a set of rules and you stick to the rules. And if you don't stick to the rules, then you pay the consequences. And there are different consequences for breaking different rules. And that stood me in good stead. And it's how I live my life today.
And for those of us who don't know about Kaizen, how would you summarize Kaizen? Because it's a concept, isn't it, created by someone?
It's a concept of, I think, continuous improvement. It comes primarily from the Japanese car industry, and they empowered people on the production line not only to suggest improvements to the way that things were done, but to take those suggestions seriously. It wasn't a tick box, it wasn't lip service. They really took those suggestions seriously. So when a guy whose job was screwing in a light bulb in the back of a Toyota whatever said, what would be really good idea is if we got them in boxes of 10 instead of boxes of 4, because that would mean that I would save 3 minutes every 5 cars, and that would mean this and this and this. And they implemented it, and the outcome was not only that they saved teeny bit of time on the production of the cars, but when you're producing 100,000 cars in a minute or whatever they do, those tiny bits of time get up. But the empowerment of the staff was phenomenal. So the improvement wasn't only in the production line and in the quality of vehicle that rolled off the production line, it was in the staff relations and the staff motivation as well.
So it's not just the big things, it's actually 1,000.
Absolutely.
1,001 small things.
Absolutely.
Isn't it?
And big things are really hard.
Why go for the big things?
Absolutely.
And you have to do the
big
improvements.
Things. Yeah, but the
tiny ones.
Yeah, the question of how do you eat an elephant? You eat an elephant one bite at a time.
Yeah.
And, when you look at that elephant, you think, I just can't do that. Well, of course you can't. It's a big, big elephant. But when you say, okay, how about if I do this little bit, and that will move me a little bit closer to where I want to be. And that's what I do with businesses a lot of the time, is I help them work out which bite of the elephant to take first, and how to move it forward, and which bits are important and which bits need to be done.
Well, I know that we're time for a piece of music, but I know that you've got some thoughts about the recession. We were just hearing in the news earlier about there's an indication that there's a bit of a turning point.
Yeah.
And so I'd be really interested in sharing your thoughts with us on those tiny things that we might do to help to do our bit in turning that recession around.
Yep.
And in the meantime, you've selected some songs for us today. This first one, speaking about tiny movements, tiny paces, is Tiny Dancer from Elton John.
Yes.
Oh, that's Tiny Dancer by Elton John. We were having a great chat here during that. My guest, Mark Harris, you're a good friend of the ultimate Elton, is that right?
Well, I'm a good friend of his manager. And I've met the ultimate Elton a few times. It was, of course, the ultimate Elton who came in here pretending to be Elton John
on April
Fool's
Mansell.
Day.
Yes.
Cracking
That was great.
show.
I believe that,
Yeah.
actually. I saw the picture and I thought, that's got to be, how does he do
Terrific.
that?
He is just so good. The first time I was chatting with the ultimate Elton, 15-20 minute chat before he went on stage to do some stuff, I had to keep telling myself this is not Elton John because he's just so like him. The look, he was dressed like him for the show. The look, the mannerisms, the voice, fantastic. Really very good.
So it's coincidence because I was over at Cookham this morning and I was just stopped in the traffic on the bridge, and there on the left-hand side was a poster advertising on the 4th of August. The Ultimate Elfin is appearing in one of the bars, pubs, hotels, and there are many others. But this one is called, I think, The Crown. On the High Street in Cookham.
Middle of the High Street.
I thought that's a coincidence that you should do that. We should select Elton John for your first song. So, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I'm looking at my diary as we speak, and I had nothing to do on the 4th of August, so I think I've now got something to do.
3 p.m., 9 p.m. Get buy your tickets.
Cracking.
There's a free ad there. So we were talking about the news, and you were saying to me earlier that you felt that we kind of talked our way into the recession a bit, and it was now time to talk our way out of it. And the news on 2 o'clock there seemed to suggest that we're on the cusp of a turnaround. Just tell us your views on that.
Absolutely. This is, I think, the second consecutive quarter where it hasn't been a recession, and that's really great. First time in ages there's been 2 consecutive quarters. I've been feeling for some time that it's getting better, and certainly, just like everybody else, I sell, not like everybody else, like lots of other people, I sell for a living. I sell my services to businesses, and there is resistance, and there has been for some time, and the attitude from people has been very much, we know we need to spend the money, but actually we're not going to, either because we haven't got the money, or we have got the money, but we don't know how long it's got to last, so we want to eke it out, and we don't want to spend unless we really, really have to. And for most of 2013, certainly for me, February onwards, that's changed. And people are saying, okay, we are going to spend a bit of money. We are going to give it a bit of a go. And what happens when company A spends some money with me, I then have some money. So the computer that I was going to buy that I've been putting off, I then buy. And the man I buy the computer from then has some money. And he then puts that towards the car that he's been meaning to buy for it, and it's a virtuous circle that it sort of gets things kick-started. But alongside that, the physicality of the money changing hands, there has to be the psychology of of people believing it. As I say, it's well documented that we pretty much talked ourselves into a recession. There was a lot of reporting about that at the time, and I'm not suggesting that just by saying things are good that they will get good, but actually if we have a bit of faith that actually things are happening, and it mustn't be blind faith, it's got to be faith based on a bit of reality, as per today's news, then let's do that. And riding the wave is a well-known expression, catch the wave, and I think the sensible people now are putting a bit of effort into making things happen, and they're riding the wave, and what comes behind the wave is the shallow water, and the people who don't catch the wave get left behind in the shallow water, paddling around, not doing very much.
So the analogies or the metaphors you're using there, so it brings in about what you do and people like you do, coaches, etc., people who come in as advisors, because you don't have a vested interest in the car manufacturer who's going to get the money or the laptop company. What you're interested in is how can you help a business executive make a decision to move, to begin the forward movement out of wherever it is that we have been, you could say, stuck.
Absolutely.
Or you could say just cautiously waiting.
Absolutely.
But there's come a time when the wave comes, and if you don't catch the wave, you either get hit by it or you miss it completely.
Yeah, I've been knocked over by a wave or two in my time. And it's really very, very easy to go into work every day and do the same as you did yesterday and just go through the routine and answer the emails and pick up the phone and plod along. And when 5 or 6 or 7 comes around, I'm not saying people are skivy, they're very busy, but they're just doing reactively whatever hits them, whatever puts itself in their in tray. And what I say is, let's just stop for a minute, or in fact let's just stop for an hour, and let's talk about your business. Let's talk about, what are you trying to achieve? Are you achieving it? How are you trying to get there? What can you try and do to help make it, going back to what we were saying before, to help make it a little bit better so that you can move closer to those objectives? And in a recession, it's really hard to make those things happen because money is always the issue, either your money or your customer's money.
Yeah, this morning I was over with a friend of mine who's runs a small print company, and over the years he has struggled That was the balance between do I out there networking, getting business, and at the same trying to cope with the business. And where he is at the moment is he's got enough business to keep him going.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't have the pressure that he had before.
Yeah.
But the issue now is and we were talking about that, the book Who Moved My Cheese, when the cheese move, when something happens. And so he's busy coping with the business that he's got, but he doesn't know how long that's going to last. So it's do I now start going out networking again? Is that what people are doing, or do I do online marketing? So what would be your suggestion? Give us a tip on what people might start to do, because it's to get unstuck, if you like, to get moving, besides just going out and spending money.
Yes, the glib answer is do something. As I said, it's very easy to
take
go
action
through the motions every day, but do something, take action, absolutely. And in terms of the differences between networking and social media and rebuilding your website and all the different things you can do to get noticed, for me, the big question, where the answers are different for different types of businesses, which is why on the air it's a generalist's kind of an answer. Think about, where are your customers? Where do they go? If you want to sell to small businesses, up to 5 employees, those kinds of things, then the informal networking, things like Business Biscotti and Refer On and the other sort of networking groups that are around, that's where you'll find a lot of those kinds of people. If you want to sell to the mid-range corporates, low-end corporates, 100, 150 employees, you don't find them floating around those kinds of places. You've got to look at things more like Institute of Directors, and that's if you're physically networking. If you're social networking, then you've got to really think about which is better for me. Is it Facebook or is it Twitter? And how am I using LinkedIn? Is it all of those things, or is it just some of them? And what's not just what is the content that I put out, because if it's sell, people switch off very quickly on social media. It's not how you should play the game. But it's not just the content, it's the tone. It's getting across an impression of you and your business that makes people interested in you and makes them want to think, let's have a look at this guy's website, see what it's about. And that's of course where your website has to come in handy and be up to scratch. But it's identifying, where are your customers, what magazines are they reading, what websites are they looking at, what social media are they doing, and what you need to do is what they're doing.
And the only way to find that out is to go and ask them, actually. Because how else are you going to, it's to actually go and meet them. It's go out and start meeting customers and finding out what they're thinking about. And so to start the conversation, a positive conversation, that things are on the move and I'm going to be part of that movement forward.
Absolutely. If you're looking for customers of a certain type, you probably already have some customers of that type. So ask them, what magazines do you read? Ask them, how do you network? Where do you go? They should be quite happy to tell you if you've got a good relationship with them.
Time for some more music. This time you've chosen Dreams by Auburn.
Yes.
Any comments on that?
Yes. Hello, Liz. How are you? Liz Lenton is the lead singer and wrote the songs. Cracking stuff. Should be famous. Not quite famous, but...
Where does Liz live?
She's in, I think, Suffolk. She's a long way away. But doesn't mean we can't listen to some nice music from her.
Excellent. Let's listen to Dreams by Auburn. That's what they call easy listening. Dreams by Auburn.
I love it. It's sultry.
It's sultry, isn't it? For a sultry summer's afternoon here on Thameside in Marlow FM 97.5. You're listening to the BizBuzz program. This is Dermot Fitzpatrick, and I'm chatting with my guest Mark Harris, who's the Enterprise Doctor.
Indeed.
Mark, you were talking just before we were listening to Auburn about things that people can do. So, okay, we can spend money. If we have some money, we can spend it. We need to choose what it is we're going to spend it on, because there'll always be people who will say we should create a new website, we should do this, we should do that. So we need to step back and perhaps get advice, maybe from someone like yourself, or for someone else someone whose opinion we trust. But if we don't have money, what else can we do? Don't have much money. To get moving.
That is, of course, the challenge. What I recommend to people is that the first thing they need to do is prioritize the idea of improving their business and doing something differently and changing what they do. There's an old expression, if you keep doing what you've done, you'll keep getting what you've got. And if they keep doing the same old thing will keep happening. So they need to, in some way, change things. And what they need to do is set aside an hour to think about stuff. Now, most people's reaction to that is an hour. An hour. First off, where do I find an hour? You know, I'm just so busy. And second off, you know, an hour just to think about what am I going to do? You know, it'll take 5 minutes kind of thing. Well, think about the last business meeting you had with a client, with a supplier, whoever it may be. How long did it last? Maybe an hour? So the next time you get somebody cancel you out on an appointment, you've then got a big gap in your diary. So you could maybe slot in that hour that you're going to focus on doing something, working on your business instead of working in your business. The other thing you can do, it's about prioritization. It's not that you haven't got an hour. It's that you choose to use your time in other ways. You choose to use your time in other ways. So what you can do is you can choose to find an hour to do that. It could be an hour from 7 till 8 in the morning if you're that kind of a person. It could be 7 till 8 at night if you're that kind of person, whenever it's good for you. And what do you do with that hour is you think good and hard about your business. And the rule is, bearing in mind there's only you involved with this, you have to be 100% honest. And if there's stuff that's not right about your business, nobody else will know. You're not going to tell anybody, just you, and face up to it. Ask yourself a question. If I had a magic wand and I could wave my magic wand and I could improve one aspect of my business, which aspect would that be?
And I'd also include myself, because my business could be that I'm the one who's kind of stuck in the doldrums, and I'm the one who's actually denying that the situation is the way it is.
For sure. And one of the hardest things that I have to do in my job when I'm working with a business person and going through this kind of process of looking at different aspects of their business, when I come to the realization that they're the problem. Finding an intriguing way of telling them that, or leading them to the point where they reach that conclusion themselves, is a really interesting challenge that I have sometimes. But sometimes it is the person that's the problem. It's their attitude, it's their beliefs, it's the way they treat suppliers or customers or colleagues, or you know, they sometimes need to change their behaviours.
You can get to a point in life too. We call it the midlife crisis, but it isn't exactly a point where your midlife crisis. It can happen anytime between 35 and 60. But it can get a point in your life where the things that suddenly your energy's gone, or the things you just don't want to get up and start doing it anymore. And it's at that point where it's like a fitness trainer. I tell you what, I've got a coach, my own business coach.
Okay.
And interestingly, the thing that she has suggested to me is that I walk for 40 minutes every day. And I'm enjoying the walk. I'm just finding it a little bit challenging to find that 40 minutes.
Yes.
Like coming here before the studio today, I was working on all the things I had to do. I'm doing something tomorrow, and there was a window of opportunity, and I'd made a commitment that I would do it consistently for 14 days. And I would text her every day and say, day 4 done, day 5 done. And today was a challenge for me to get it done, but I'd made that commitment. 40 minutes out along the river just walking. So I think it's and I can feel the benefit. It's 6 days, and I can feel the benefit now just in those first 6 days.
Brilliant.
But I'm not supposed to be thinking about business when I'm there. I'm actually to be present, and I'm on the riverbank enjoying the butterflies, enjoying that. So do you kind of get concur with that kind of?
And for me, the key words that you just used were, you are feeling the benefit. Because when you feel the benefit, then the return on the investment of your time, then you will be more prepared to prioritize time to do that. And I'm carefully chosen words there. Not find the time, prioritize the time. There's only 24 hours in a day.
It's making it more important. Because I spend my time, I can spend an hour watching TV at night time quite easily, and more. In fact, I can do certain things. It's just making one thing more important than another.
Absolutely. If you're sitting at your desk sometime and the phone rings and somebody in a roundabout way says, I want to spend £50,000 with your business, can we meet this afternoon? The answer's yes. You know, the answer's yes. Doesn't matter what was on the list. The answer's yes. It's about prioritization. At the other end of the scale, you know, if there's some kind of medical emergency with a member of your family, doesn't matter what meeting you had this afternoon. It's not going to happen. You're going to be by their bedside. You're going to be holding their hand. You're going to be doing the right thing. And if it's your business, which has if you'll forgive the analogy, a medical emergency, then, you need to pay it some attention. You need to allow the time to do that. You need to make the time, prioritise the time.
Well, sometimes we do need a jolt. We need a bit of kita, as they call it, because if you always do what you've always done, as you said, always get what you've always got. And of course, it's the me who's thinking. But if somebody else comes along and the bank manager comes along and says, oh, by the way, we're doing this, or the doctor says, oh, by the way, your heart is not as good as it was before, and if you don't do something, so you get that kind of warning, and then it becomes important.
But it's about how much you believe it. Because my late father, who died a couple of years ago now, just over 2 years ago, was a smoker for years and years and years. Doctor said, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. He's getting those warnings. He had little heart murmury things, didn't do anything. Then he had his big heart attack. And then he gave up smoking. And it wasn't too late, because giving up smoking at that point helped him live a number of years quite healthily, fairly healthily, after that. But like you say, you need that jolt, you need that thing that makes you stop and say, I need to change things. And it could be a medical thing. In business, that's something that happens. I know of plenty of people, one in particular I'm thinking of, who shall remain nameless, 80% of their business with one customer, and the one customer is sort of making going away noises, and he's thinking, whoa, I need to address this issue. And yeah, you do. And it's really disappointing that things get to the stage where it's bad news before somebody does something. And when you're talking about your GP, they have things called a well-man clinic or a well-woman clinic, and you can go and not be ill. You can be well.
You can find out how unwell you are,
or how well you are. And,
so in a sense, the enterprise doctor is capable of coming in. You could actually come in and say, I've got some bad news for you.
There's nothing wrong.
I've had a look at the books, and I've had a look at your business, and I've been listening to you, the last hour or so. And here's my diagnosis. If you don't do anything, or if you don't do something, I'm going to write the story for you that you will be out of business. You will have a lot of heartache with the next 2 years or 6 months or something. You've really got, like the doctor would say, if you're smoking or drinking or whatever, eating too much. Absolutely. My friend, if you continue down the path you're on, if you continue down the business path, you're going to be out of business, and you're going to have a lot of pain.
Yeah. And there are businesses that I've worked with in the past where that's the case, and one that I can think of immediately, because your failures always hurt. And it wasn't really my failure, but the company didn't make it despite the help that I was trying to give it. And, and that to this day hurts. I really wanted to help them, but, they came to me too late. And, miracles I can do, the impossible is a little harder. And there's somebody I'm working with at the moment who has some big challenges, but I think, and he thinks, that we're able to pull it back from the brink and make a success of it. And
excellent.
It's looking promising.
So in your way, you're helping that company, and you're helping contribute towards a return to us out of recession.
Absolutely.
Walk on the wild side with Lou Reed. There's something iconic about that. Take a walk on the wild side.
Great. Doopy.
And that's what we're talking about here. Is it time to just take a little bit of a walk on the wild side, to get off the beaten track? The road less travelled, and maybe find a little bit of a side shoot. So it's something about not following somebody else's track. How about creating a little track of your own? A new track of your own in business. Finding that new niche, that new aspect.
It's there. I think there are two routes to success, and that is absolutely one of them. It's the finding something new. When Facebook came out, it was something new. It was building on Bebo and various other things. And forgive me if my history lessons slightly out of space, but slightly out of kilter. But it's very hard to come up with something that's just completely new. But when you do something different, one of two things happens: either it bombs, and you shrug your shoulders and move on, or it really catches the wave that we were talking about before, and it just goes. And you don't have to do that. You can look at something that's successful and in some way replicate it. It drives me mad on one of the things that drives me mad about Dragon's Den, which is a program that drives me mad for various reasons. But one of the reasons is somebody comes up with an idea and they won't invest in it because someone else is already doing it. Well, there's two companies I can think of, McDonald's and Burger King. If the second one of those had said, no, let's not make burgers because someone else is already doing it, well, the point is that you do it slightly different, you do it better by whatever definition of the word better is that you have. You do it in an appealing way, in the right place, at the right price, maybe higher price for higher quality. You know, look, Gourmet Burger King, for example.
You got to pay £8 for a burger now.
Yeah, I always call them Gourmet Burger King, Gourmet Burger Kitchen. £8 or £9 for the burger, as our Chancellor demonstrated recently.
Yes,
and you know, for me, they're worth it. They're really nice.
And speaking about that, there's a couple of businesses in Marlow that I want to give a shout out for, and probably shouldn't, but you know, there was a time when the Weatherheads Brewery closed down in the centre of Marlow, and then two guys come along who were born in Marlow, and they say, let's set up a microbrewery. Yeah. And they say, oh, what do we need a microbrewery for? Who's going to buy that? What is it? We get a fabulous Rebellion brewery.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if they'd gone on Dragon's Den and said, can we have £50,000, the answer would have been, oh, no, there's already a brewery.
Yeah, you can't compete with Weatherheads or whatever else. Yeah. And we've got, so there's the Artisan Bakery, there's Burgess Park Bakery. You see all the other supermarkets are producing bread. Why do we need one? Or we've got B&Q. And we got Mr. Hunt, Richard Hunt there, selling hardware where you get personalised service. That's really what. If these people were listening to the naysayers, they would say, "Oh well, you know, everybody's going to go to the bigger boys." But what about the smaller, the so and so, the bicycle shop, Saddle Safari, all those small shops that we have in Marlow? Brilliant. They've identified a niche, and they're making it successful.
Yes, and that's what it's about. As I said, when I said earlier about the networking thing, it's about going where your customers are. This is in a similar vein for me. It's thinking about what do people want, and when you talk about, you know, the artisan bread, for example, artisan is a fabulous word.
Isn't it just?
The marketing power that word has these days is phenomenal. The implication of quality and expertise that's gone into that loaf of bread.
Yeah, we had the baker actually on here, one of the programs.
Oh, really?
And there is a huge amount of history and story and care and attention that goes into the making of bread that we're actually eating, that we're putting in our own bodies.
Absolutely. And when you look at the bread in Asda or Waitrose or the Co-op or wherever, price. And when you look at the artisan baker, quality. And it's a different type of sell. And if he tries to compete with that, I've got no idea, he might even be cheaper, who knows. But if he's not competing on price, that's not what it's about. It's about quality.
Yeah. And it's also diversification. There's bread, there's cakes, there's ice cream, there's birthday cakes, there's a cafe. Yeah, you know, it is actually, and its location.
Absolutely.
But you know, when you go into these local shops, there is service. There are people. There's Richard Hunt. You know, the family. You actually there's Bernard in Burgess. You actually meet the people.
Yeah, quality of service these days is absolutely critical.
So, are we saying here that it's taking a step off the roundabout, the merry-go-round, and seeing what business am I in? What is it special?
Yes.
First of all, I'm special.
Yeah.
The special. There is something special about the particular business that I'm in. What is it? Is it artisan? Is it quality of service? Is it? Do I help people? I don't just sell screws and equipment. I actually advise them how to use them properly and safely.
Absolutely. It's finding that little niche. It's then really starting to believe in it and believe that that's where your expertise is and where you can make money, and you believe in it because it's true, and you do some research and you talk to people about what they want, and you find that out. But then it's all well and good having the best thing since sliced bread, if you'll forgive the artisan pun. So how do you tell people? How do people know about it? And that's when you then start coming to things like marketing and salesmanship and those kinds of things, because you can have the best loaf of bread in the world, but if nobody knows it's there, they're not going to buy it.
And I think Bernard in Burgess will be the first to admit that. I mean, there's a couple of years ago he had a major decision, I think, to make as to what he was going to do with the business. Yeah. And his decision was to reinvest in it and to maintaining the quality, but make it more upmarket and more accessible, and the different range of. I'm not just singling him out, but I think it's that all the other shops are doing the same thing. Those who are successful are actually staying ahead of the trend, moving with the cheese, moving with the waves.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to be giving people what they want in a way that they want it, because there is a lot of choice out there, and people will choose a good purchasing experience as well as a good product and a good price.
Well, time for some more music. We're going to play one you've chosen for the Kinks, Lola.
Lola, yeah, love it to death. It's just such a fun song.
It is. It's actually a happy-go-lucky song. Let's listen to Lola. Bohemian Like You, that was. And I'm here with my guest, Mark Harris. This is Dermot Fitzpatrick on the BizBuzz program.
Yeah.
Mark, tell us just something about Bohemian.
Bohemian, like the Dandy Warhols. I need a public thank you to Helena, who got me a couple of tickets for Jules Holland's Later a few years back, and the Dandy Warhols were sorry. Helena lives in Marlow Bottom, and she's a lovely lady.
Okay,
and her husband's a lovely man.
Okay,
and
see, everybody in Marlow is lovely.
Absolutely, and Dandy Warhols were one of the bands that were on, and they played. That was one of the songs that they played, and I was standing 4 foot from them. It was just such a phenomenal experience, and I liked the song before they did it live, almost just for me. But I like it a lot more.
I love Jules Holland.
He's good.
There's
it's a good show.
Yeah, isn't it? New Year's Eve or just what is it? Later with
Jules Holland. Yeah, he has such interesting people, and he is not just some presenter who turns up and chats. He knows his stuff, and he's an expert musician, and
So, Mark, you are the enterprise doctor.
I am.
But I asked you earlier just to think of a couple of things, like you with waving your magic wand, and this would be under the headings of stop, start, and continue. If there was one thing in the country, government, or whatever that you would stop, you would say enough, stop it. What would that be?
It's just so easy for me to answer that question. It's just, I'm going to say 3 letters. It's 2 letters and a number. HS2.
HS2,
the high speed. Yeah, the high speed rail link from London to wherever it's going to go. I'm not an expert. I'm not in any of the big lobbying groups. I don't devour every bit of news about it that there is, but I do glean an awful lot, and I talk to people about it, and it just seems to me to be complete madness. There is no business plan. There's no business case for it. If somebody came to me as enterprise doctor and said, here's what I want to do with 50 billion pounds.
Can you repeat that again? It's now 50 billion pounds,
according to the news today.
But
of course, that's at today's price.
And that's not even including the trains or something.
Yeah. I think it might be 36 plus or 46 plus the trains makes fit. I don't know. It doesn't matter, because by the time they actually do it, and they will, by the time they actually do it, it'll be 60 or 70, because these things always go just sky high. And for what? So you can get to Birmingham 20 minutes quicker. And I don't travel much on the train, but lately, for a particular client, we've been doing a bit of travelling, and we've gone by train. It's more sensible. It's lovely. You forget all that driving tosh. You sit there on the train and you're working away with your laptop and you're chatting to people. There's Wi-Fi on the train. It's just a whole new world in which we live.
We want to get there faster.
Why do you want to get there faster? We had a nice meal. We had a good chat. We did some good business. I was processing emails on the laptop and putting together a presentation for the meeting we were going to and all those things. Who cares if you get there 50 minutes quicker? The only positive that I can see, and it's interesting that the government, who I love deeply, but it's interesting that the government, I never hear them say in any kind of clear way, with any kind of clarity, the plus points of this are.
Well, there's so many people are coming out against it, aren't they?
And if there are plus points, why won't they tell us what they are? Is it a secret? Why won't they tell us? For me, the only plus point that I know of is that when you're sitting at the table with Angela Merkel and Putin or whoever and Obama, and it's to say our trains are faster than your trains.
Well, we're spending more on our trains.
Yeah. We're stimulating our economy more than you are with all of this work.
Well, that's part of your get us out of recession. Let's spend 50
absolutely
billion.
But spend it on something sensible. An interesting statistic I heard, people talk a lot about the appalling broadband there are around large chunks of the country, how massively it's holding business back, and a lot of that is true in Buckinghamshire as well, how it's holding business back. They can't do business because they haven't got decent broadband. Forget the 50 billion, with the 36 billion it was at a little while ago, I saw a statistic, I have no idea of its validity, but I believe it to be true. You could put high-speed broadband, and I mean really, 60 meg stuff or more, into every business in the country for that money. Now, which of those two things do you think would be better for our economy? Is getting every business in the country on high-speed broadband with all of the benefits that brings, or getting to Birmingham 15 minutes quicker?
Well, if you're listening and you have got a view that you either agree with Mark or disagree with Mark, you can still call us on 01628 488 975 or text us on 07900 975 975, or you can email studio@marlowfm.co.uk.
And I was about to say only if you agree with me, but actually if you disagree, I'm up for a row.
Yeah,
call me if you disagree. Not a row, a chat, a conversation,
a contra opinion. But it does seem very strange to me that with all of the consultants and all of the super beings that are involved in government, and I heard you saying you love them very much. I'm interested to hear you saying that. But with things like the dome, the 400 million for the dome, or the computer system for the National Health Service, or how is it? If what kind of an example is this setting for business? If this was a business, it wouldn't be, would it?
And
there would be. The bank wouldn't lend them the money, first
absolutely
of all.
right.
So something kind of odd about
right, but the difference,
what's going
the
on.
thing that's okay. Firstly, one of the things that is different is that the bank, as in this scenario, the Bank of England, has to lend them the money. And otherwise, we do a Detroit. We go bust. We Chapter 11 if we had such a thing.
As if we're not already.
Well, we are, but what they keep doing is printing more money. And they come up with a really flash name like quantitative easing.
I like it. Let's call it something other than we've overextended ourselves. We are trading insolvently.
But I think going the Detroit route and actually declaring yourself bankrupt is not a good move for a country, particularly a country like ours.
I'm more to do with the where the control system, where's the thinking?
Madness.
Somehow this thing can go up from 36 million to 50 billion, 36 billion to 50 billion. You what? And we're talking about billions.
Yeah, it's just astonishing.
Okay, so that's
I don't know why it goes so wrong.
That's the thing that you'd like to stop.
I would like to stop that.
Too. What about what would you like to start? What would you like to see started that isn't happening at the moment?
Well, is actually, if I can play with your words slightly, I'd like to see restarted. Is help for people who want to start a business. And I realise, and by help, what I mean is free help provided by the government funded. And you know what I'd like it to be? I'd like it to be compulsory. At the moment, it's interesting, to an analogy. If you want to have a baby, you go off and have fun with somebody and bingo, there's a baby, if you're lucky enough to do so. If you want to adopt a baby, you have to jump through a million hoops backwards. You have to prove your responsibility for having a child. But as I say, if you want to just go and make one the more natural way, then you just go and do it. And it's the same as starting a business. If you want to start a business, I want to be a photographer. I'm going to make my living being a photographer. What you do is you phone up HMRC or go on their website and you say, I'm now a self-employed photographer, and they then tax you accordingly. That's it. Nothing else. Job done, sorted, off you go. And you might be a very good photographer. But what do you know about marketing? What do you know about selling? What do you know about having a business plan that will show your cash flow and your balance sheet? What do you know about those finances? What do you know about running a business? If you're going to take on maybe a member of staff at some point, what do you know about HR? And what do you know about the thing? What do you know? And I think that the government should follow the example of the Prince's Trust. And the Prince's Trust at the moment lends money to young people who fit certain criteria, and they will lend them money to get a business started. But the journey towards them being lent the money starts with a conversation about why do you want to start a business. And if that is convincing enough, there is a compulsory 3-day training course. Day 1 is sales, day 2 is finance, day 3 is running a business. And they have to do that. And you know what happens at the end of the 3-day course? Lots of people say, you know what? I don't want to run my own business anymore. Isn't it fantastic to find that out then, rather than invest your life savings or your redundancy money or whatever it is it may be, jack your job in, I can do this better than you, and then make a right mess of it? Why not either get some training to help you do it better, or get some insight to make you say, actually, I don't want to work for myself. I don't want to have all of those challenges and do all those other things. What I want to be is a photographer or a painter or a web designer or whatever it may be.
You would think that that it would happen, but this huge, just 50-something% of the startup businesses actually fail.
Yeah.
For me, the waste of money, the waste of energy, the dreams, the aspirations. Sometimes people are stretching themselves completely.
And it's so
what you're suggesting is
avoidable.
that, and I've had another guest in a couple of months ago, and he has a business simulation model, so that people can actually run their business through a model.
Oh, interesting.
And it throws up for them there's the weaknesses. After a couple of months of running this, or 6 months, they can see that they're financially they've got a problem, or marketing they've got a problem. You would think that the banks and government would introduce something to considerably reduce the amount of failures that are happening, and to give people more chance of success.
And people will talk about Business Link, and I talk about the late lamented Business Link, and it's still out there, but it's basically a web-based resource. You can get information about things. They used to run the kind of training. I used to be part of that, Yeah, okay. They used to run the kind of training that I'm talking about, and it was really very useful.
And you're also, as you mentioned, the Princess Trust, you're a volunteer with the Princess, so you know quite a bit about that.
Yeah. Until recently, I was the volunteer coordinator for Buckinghamshire, but I've stepped back from that role and let somebody else take it on. I'm now a business mentor, so I work one-to-one with a young person on helping them get their business off the ground and successful.
So you're walking the talk.
Yeah, absolutely. Or walking the walk. I don't know which it is, but I'm doing it. And, some people in my business life, I charge for that. In my voluntary work life, my corporate social responsibility, if you like, I do it for now.
I think what we need is we need a revolution.
Oh, we do.
You know, I'm setting this up.
Is that a segue by any chance?
It's a very, very crude segue into the Revolution by the Beatles. Revolution by the Beatles. I think that's what we need. We need some form of peaceful revolution.
Yes.
To get things moving, to get things going here. So we said stop, start, and can you stop was the HS2.
Yep.
The start was offering free training for new startups, helping people to be more successful in business.
Yep.
And the final one was continue. What's working at the moment? What's really working that you think we should continue on and learn more from?
Okay, but people talk a lot about volunteering, and the Olympics was such a massive boost for volunteering in this country, and corporate social responsibility is not exactly a new concept, but we're talking about what do I think should continue, and I think it's that whole giving back to the community, being nice, being motivated by not just by pounds, but by other things too. And pounds are important, we've got mortgages, we've got food to eat, and we'd like food to eat, and we've got children to bring up and whatever else. So you've got to make some money, and any business that gives away all its money is a bit foolish. But to be able to be a bit more altruistic and to try and do some good stuff in your local community and in the wider community, I think is something which does happen. And I think that's a wave that would be really good if it continued and built.
And so you were saying earlier that sometimes you sit in at meetings with charities that you're involved with.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you look around the table. So just,
absolutely. I'm involved with a number of local charities, and I was at a trustee. Well, I'll name the charity, there's no issue. Wycombe Youth Action, based in High Wycombe. They do a lot of good stuff for young people in the community. Primarily in High Wycombe itself, but broader afield as well. I was at a trustees meeting, and I looked around the table at the phenomenal calibre of the people there, at what they do in their day job, and I thought, okay, so how much an hour would each of these people charge if this was work, if they were doing this on a consultancy basis? And how many of them are there? And how many hours we put into this meeting? And how many hours in the and the work that people do is worth thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds. And why do they do it? Good question, actually. I think really what it boils down to, if people, and not necessarily those people, so don't take it personally, guys, if I'm wrong about you, but actually it's because it makes them feel good. I do what I do because it makes me feel good. Why does it make me feel good? And it sounds a bit there, but I'm giving back to the local community. And I would like to think that if I had some of the challenges that people who I try and help have, then somebody would be trying to help me. And just like there's the old, let he who is without sin cast the first stone. Well, if you reckon you're a good person, prove it. Do something. Do something good. Give an hour a week. Give an hour a month. Give a couple of hours a month. There's so many different ways that you can volunteer. There are so many different ways that you can get involved with local charities. If you don't really know quite what you want to do, there's even charities that will help you decide in what way you want to volunteer. And for your business, the smallest business to the largest can get involved with what's known as corporate social responsibility, and they do. I'm not sitting here slagging off the local community. Far from it. There are lots of local businesses that do really good stuff in corporate social responsibility, but there are also lots that don't. And I'm not going to give them a hard time over it, but just sort of
just doing something. I guess we've come through an era where, if there's nothing in it for me, why should I bother doing it?
And actually, even if people take that attitude, if businesses take that attitude, my answer is actually there is something in it for you, because you'll feel better about yourself, your staff feel better, they feel more engaged with the business, they're doing something collectively as a group of people which isn't focused on bringing in pounds. They're out digging a neighbour's garden or painting or whatever, or counselling people who are out of work, or whatever it may be that you're doing. And that can be good for business. And of course you can, if you want to be really not cynical, but if you want to max it, you can stick out a press release saying about all the great things you've done, put it in your annual report that your shareholders see. You can, if you want to look at it from a business perspective, it makes good business sense to have a good CSR policy.
So, Mark, if we were summarising our conversation this afternoon, which I've really enjoyed,
good,
it would be something about we're at a cusp of a turning point. So let's take action. Let's get out there. It doesn't necessarily have to be the biggest thing. Actually, the number of small things, but do something and do something different.
For sure.
Just and step back away from your business. Look at what's good about it. Look what's good about your staff, your customers, and maximize that positive aspect. Yeah?
Absolutely, it's there. If you just got to take it. It's out
and
there.
the other thing was to also do something else. Do something for other people without necessarily an obvious reward.
For sure.
So and you can find the time to do that. Take care of yourself. Go out fitness or take up a sport or a hobby or something like that. Just do something different, because somehow you would go to the running club and somehow you'll meet people that could be good for your business. Just getting out there and starting moving.
And you'll feel so much better when you do it. As they say at the end, I think it was the end of Spinal Tap, or somewhere in the film Spinal Tap, the drummer's motto is, have a good time all the time.
So thank you so much for being my guest. It's been really fun chatting with you this afternoon, Mark.
I've really enjoyed it.
If people wanted to get in touch with you as the Enterprise Doctor, how would they go about that?
Well, they can Google Enterprise Doctor and find Mr. McCoy.
We're going to go to Mark Harris.
Enterprise it's enterprisedoctor.co.uk. I'm sure you'll find me.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining me.
A real pleasure.
And it's been a real pleasure too. Thank you. And your final request for today was, I've got the music in me, and I think you definitely do have the music. Kiki D, I've got the music in me. Have a good week. This is Dermot Fitzpatrick saying thank you for joining me, thank you for listening, and I look forward to being back here with you on the BizBuzz program in 2 weeks' time. In fact, Mark Harris, our very own Mark Harris, you're actually doing next Thursday.
Absolutely,
is that right?
with Mike Duckett, we'll be doing
with Mike Duckett. Sure. Thank you so much. Have a good week.